Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, Senior Writing Coach for Defend and Publish. Welcome to episode 31, Writing Habit Tracking. I've recently gotten interested in habit tracking because I came across a habit tracking calendar sold by a company out of Cleveland that I really like called Free Period Press. And the more I looked at this calendar, I was initially thinking of it as a way to track traditional habits like going to the gym, getting enough sleep, taking a multivitamin, those kinds of things. But the more I looked at this particular calendar, but also habit tracking apps and things in general, I started thinking about how they might be able to help us think that we're making forward progress on writing. And we might actually be making forward progress on writing. One of the things that I think is really frustrating about the academic writing process is that it's slow. It's just slow. So you might be working on an article for 6 months, for 12 months, for 18 months, a book several years, even a conference presentation, assuming you're not doing it on a plane to go to a conference, or for a virtual one, you're not doing it the night before. Though even those things do take some time if you're going to do them and be well prepared. And one of the things that I started thinking about with a habit tracker is that not only does it give you a quick satisfactory check, I did this today, but seeing all the checks lining up can show you some forward momentum that you are developing a good habit for academic writing. You are developing a system of at least sitting down and doing something. Now, does that mean that your article is actually any closer to completion than it was a week ago before you started doing the checks? That's a different topic altogether. And I will do a podcast episode on how you know that you're making forward progress in your writing, legitimate forward progress. There's some signs that you can look at and find. But I also like the motivational boost for habit tracking because it does show you that you're able to sort of hang on to a habit. And the biggest thing that I like about it is that I think it's easy as academics to sort of fool ourselves that we're doing more academic writing or doing more academic research than we actually are. And certainly there are stages in our lives that we are just not able to do it. For many of you parents at home, I was also doing some homeschooling during the pandemic. I did not get in the same hours that I would have had I been able to go to work and have children in school all day long. Those of you with chronic conditions, or if you became a long haul COVID person, you just don't have the capacity or the health stamina to be able to do the long hours. And that's okay. And one of the things that I like about having these trackers is that you can at least see that, yes, I did get a little bit of writing done every day. And only, certainly some writing sessions are more satisfying than others. We've all had that probably momentum where you've had a really fantastic writing session, but then the next couple of days you feel like you don't get anything done or you're just stuck again. And that's just the nature of academic writing. So what I want to share with you today is just a couple of options for habit tracking tools that I've just found really interesting and intriguing. And I think that if we're thinking about resetting writing habits, that's kind of been a theme I've been working on through episodes 29 and 30. If we're really thinking about this, having some kind of a tool to just kind of check on keeping track of our writing, I think might be useful. So not for everybody, but certainly I think some of these are worth just giving a second look at. And as always, for audio listeners, I do have the show notes with these apps listed. I will describe what I'm looking at. I'm just going to show you 4 options that could be possible ones that might be useful. So let me share my screen with everybody who is watching this live. And as always, you can go to defendandpublish.com and go to podcasts and find all our show notes. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can also get them linked there. So one of the things I want to discuss before I show you the habit track options, just to give you some ideas, is just to think about what things might you track. Because I don't think it's enough to just have a little box that said writing and check it off every day. I don't think that's necessarily a useful way to use one of these. I think we could think about it in a more complex way. So I know in the previous episode, I talked about before you start writing, the night before, even setting yourself up for success by having a 5-minute meeting with yourself just to think about, what am I going to do in my writing session tomorrow? You might decide to make that a habit. So for me, I generically call it my nightly writing meeting. And all it is just 5 minutes where I say, okay, when am I writing tomorrow? And what is it I'm going to work on? Sometimes I'll write a little post-it to myself about it after that. Sometimes not, because it's just enough for me to revisit and know that that's what I'm going to do. Other things that you might consider doing would be, say you want to have a weekly habit of checking a project management grid where you store all your projects and you know what it is that you're working on week to week. That's a good habit to get into. And I know I talked about this in episode 28 about desktop organization and how I use the tool Fences to make sure that my project tracking chart is front and center, and I show what it looks like and everything like that. So if you haven't seen one of those or you want some ideas, check out episode 28 and also link to it in the show notes. Another thing that might be useful would be reading scholarly articles. Maybe you want to get in the habit of reading 2 scholarly articles a week. And I know I've actually done this where I've said, well, I'm going to do that, but because you don't write it down anywhere or life gets you by, you just don't do it. Whereas if you leave it up there as, say, a weekly habit, and it's on this habit tracker you're seeing every day and it's still like unchecked, I think that also offers that reminder that, yes, I'm committed to doing that as part of my writing process. So some other ones that I'm listing here for our audio only listeners, revising a paragraph a day in an article. Maybe that's one way that you're not only working on the content generation of writing, but also making sure you're revising for clarity and strength and argument as part of that. And also a paragraph is kind of a small piece of writing to work with at a time, but it's a very meaningful unit. So you might want to check that one out. Maybe you're coding 1 data set a day. Maybe you have a set, interviews divided up in sets of 10. You're going to work on coding, 10 of those interviews, assuming they're short. You might not be able to do that in a day. Maybe you need to find a software to analyze a data set. And so you need to devote 30 minutes to finding this software. Maybe that's a task that's not going to become a habit, but you want to get in the habit of, say, once a month, finding a new technology tool to assist you with your scholarship. That could be a habit that's kind of a forward-looking habit. Like, maybe I don't need this tool right now, but I might need it later. I often do that, and particularly now for this podcast, so I can share some of these finds with you. And then another good one would be if you're on a collaborative project. I always like a nice collaborative email every week with my group to just say, okay, everybody, here's what we're doing. Here's what we talked about. Here's what we're planning to do this week, just to keep everybody on track, whether I'm the project leader or not. And maybe work that out with your collaborators. But these are just some options. There's a million other things that you could be tracking with writing. So, maybe for some of you, if writing is very, very challenging, you could go back to the standard, I'm going to write 750 words in a writing session and be done. And you're going to set that up as a daily goal. That's okay. Same thing with those of you that might do pages a week. I know I've talked in other podcast episodes about those numerical goals are often great. But the catch is with writing, you can spend 3 hours changing 2 sentences and it makes a huge difference in your writing, but you could write 750 words that don't mean anything. So I think this is very context specific, but certainly if that's a way where you just got to get some words down on paper and you need to do it in a way that you can feel I'm done at a certain point, absolutely tracking, 750 words a day or, pages or even time. I worked on this for 2 hours. I'm done. It is important to know when a writing session is starting and ending. You don't want to be in sort of that vague cloud of I'm writing all day long without a set end time, because obviously that will lead to burnout. So let me show you a couple of these habit trackers and see if any of these pique your interest. My favorite right now, and I will show some pictures of this once I have it a little bit more developed out, is a calendar I found. It's a cheap calendar on a group called Free Period Press. They're based out of Cleveland, where I'm from. I don't know the company. I don't work for them, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just happened to come across this because I bought something else on the website and saw this, but it's just a 12-page calendar. I like it. It lays flat. It's clean looking. And I like it that it has big boxes to write out what it is you want to do daily, weekly, and monthly, and then you just check it off by the day. So, each month I can kind of think of a new goal to commit to that month. So, for example, in August, one of the things I'm going to work on as I return back to my institution, I'm going to actually work on some setup habits like, make sure that I've established a folder for this particular project, or make sure I have I've ordered from our interlibrary loan these books I know I'm going to need for a project. But you could change your habits every month, which is something that I really like about this one. So those of you that are audio listening, it's just, if you just go to freeperiodpress.com, check out habits, you'll find a bunch of different habit trackers, but this one's just called a habit calendar, and I like it. It's just really plain. So this is an option. Another one I found on there is just a poster, a giant poster you could put on the wall of your office that's a progress tracker. You could do kind of the same thing as the calendar, except it's a poster. So you can use any habits you want on there. You certainly, with all of these, you could mix in quality of life habits, in terms of like working out or getting enough sleep or making sure you're eating well. You can certainly work all those habits in there. And I will on mine, I'm trying to play with the format a little bit. I'll take some pictures of it and put it on an episode once I have it worked out how I'm going to use the habit calendar that I just mentioned. This one's called a progress tracker, and this is also at freeperiodpress.com. So this one I believe is $12. It's a poster, but with some of these things, you certainly can get these for free on Etsy. I'm not, you could get them for either cheaper or more, depending on how much you want to be devoted to this project. I just liked both of them because they're pretty reasonable. And I know that there's lots of coupon codes floating around out there. If you don't have one, email me at Christine@defendandpublish.com. I'll find one for you. But I like both of these as options because for me, I like a print-based habit tracker that either I could look at in my office and check it off as I walk in, or for me, I like that habit calendar because it's not super huge. It's really flat. It lays flat, and it actually fits inside my laptop. I can open up my laptop case, slide this little calendar in it, and it's right there. So that's the way that I'm also remembering to use the habit tracker. I also found for online tools, I found a free monthly habit tracker that looks kind of similar to the calendar that I mentioned, which this would be a printable, or you could download it and then use it digitally on your desktop. But it's the same idea where you can write in a habit in a big box, and then there's just little boxes for each of the days to check off. So this is a free template that I found online. I'll link to it in the episode 30, this episode 31 show notes. So you can check this one out. For the habit tracking for digital, another tool that I found that I thought was kind of interesting is an app called Sessions. It's only for iPhones, it's on iOS or Macs. But I liked it just because it's very simple, and anybody that uses any of the fitness trackers where you have to close a ring, you might like this. So you basically make a pledge to do something, and then you close a ring as you complete your sessions. And there's a little tracking tool that shows like how many rings you closed. So if you're kind of hooked into that, I think this is an Apple Watch that closes the rings. Maybe it's a Fitbit. I don't know. I don't have either one of them. But if you like that ring closing kind of idea, this is a free app. There are some paid upgrades if you want to do one, but the free version will do exactly what we're talking about and just track different writing habits. So again, same thing. You could track, what scholarly literature you want to read. You could track writing on a different section of your article every day, or whatever it is that you want to do, or finding 5 new sources. So this habit tracking app is called Sessions again. So if you just look at sessionsapp.com or sessions.com, you can find it. Another one that I found that I liked a lot, this one was really cool, and it's cross-platform. So you can get it also for your desktop if you're somebody that doesn't like to have these kinds of apps on your phone. It's also Android, it's also iOS. I like this one a lot. And I'm not a digital person for this kind of stuff, but if I was, this is the one I would use. It's called Lifetick, like Lifetick.com. And what it is it basically allows you to set goals and answer some questions. So you're basically telling yourself how you'll know when your writing goal is completed, which I really like about that. There's like a little diary for this. And it even has you align your writing goals with the rest of your life. So there's lots of questions about how it might align with different aspects of your personal life. There's deadlines in there, which I also like for this because, for example, many of us are always working on, say, conference presentations simultaneously along with writing. Some of those goals can drop out of your Lifetick as you complete them. So I like this one because you can actually set deadlines. And I've got a couple screenshots of what it looks like on the screen, but it also will give you a little diary in a calendar view. So every day you can see if you've completed something with a little green check. So I like that one a lot. On this one, you can certainly track other things. There are free and paid versions. And in the free version, I believe you can track maybe 3 or 4 habits at a time. So just before you put them in, just be very strategic. You won't want to have a lot of tiny ones, but you do have options to write out longer descriptions, and it looks like a pretty reasonable subscription. So I'm hoping that those habit trackers are good options for you to look at and use each month. I think it's a really great idea to kind of think about how you might want to use these in a way that helps track your writing and make you feel like you're making forward progress. So as always, we're looking for new episode ideas for Defend and Publish podcast. And if you're interested in sharing any ideas with us, please email me at Christine@defendandpublish.com or follow us on Twitter and suggest some ideas there. We're always looking for those. And be sure to subscribe if you're interested in following us and getting the latest episodes. Happy writing.